I think good to go, right?
Yes, so we can start.
Right. Hi, good morning, everyone. Hope you all are doing fine and keeping safe. I am Vijay Veer Singh, Vice President with Amity Innovation Incubator and host for the day. Amity Innovation Incubator Gurugram welcomes you for yet another interesting session for startup founders. Can MSME or startup becomes MNCs? And it's a very interesting topic as it's a dream come true for any entrepreneur to go global. And if you see Indian case studies, a lot of them have gone to that milestone where they are MNCs now. Infosys, Wipro started with a small room or garage kind of a thing, and they became a big MNCs. And the same case studies from the startup ecosystem, Oyo. Oyo has come out a long way, and they are global now, right? So before I introduce our speaker for the day, let me take you through Amity Innovation Incubator journey. So we have been in the industry for pretty long, with 14 years in existence, started way back in 2007. And thank you for the support from the ministries. We are supported by the Department of Science and Technology, MSME, Atal Innovation Mission as one of the established incubator. And our Gurugram campus, Amity Innovation Incubator Gurugram, is supported by Ministry of Electronics and Information Technology. Our achievements, we have incubated and supported more than 500 ventures since inception. 55 plus investment facilitated through our investment vehicle, Amity Capital Ventures. We have 100 plus mentors on board. These are industry experts and mentors who have been supporting our incubated startups, as well as startups who are seeking mentors from outside. We have more than 1,000 patents filed. In fact, yesterday itself, Amity University was just as the #1 private university for the patent side of it. And we have created, our incubated startup has created more than 7,000 jobs. We have good industry collaboration with IBM, Amazon, Microsoft, Google. They have been supporting our incubated startups with the credits. With the nationwide incubation network, so we are present virtually in 17 states, and with the 7 incubation centers physically present in Noida, Gurugram, Gwalior, Jaipur, Raipur, Mumbai, and Lucknow. Global reach is, we have New York as the campus for incubation. We have Singapore, Dubai, Uzbekistan, and many more coming down the line. A portfolio of incubated startups are, we are sector agnostic. We have been supporting startup as from the idea stage to the growth stage kind of a thing, and helping them through all means. Amity Capital Ventures, as I mentioned, it's our investment vehicle. We have been supporting startups at a very initial stage in the seed round, and so far a 55 plus investment has already happened through this. Some of the ecosystem partners that has been supporting our incubated startups: AWS, Google, PayU, HubSpot, Zoho. So any of our incubated startup can avail any of these services. Investment partners, these are some of the investment partners. As I said, that Amity Capital Ventures is our investment vehicle. We have been doing co-investment with other angels and VCs firms too. So any of these angel and VC firms comes to us with their startups, we are there to support them. Outreach partner Tide Delhi, NCR, W Hub, Your Story, etc. We have been providing a soft lending platform for a lot of the startups. We have good association with Korea. What we are doing with in the soft lending side is, any startup from India, if they want to go global, as the topic today is, our global presence is helping them out in setting up their base. Reach out to us at startupapply.amityincubator.com for any of the incubation or acceleration support, even the funding support. Now, coming back to today's topic, which is, can MSME becomes MNCs? And let me just introduce to you our speaker for today, Mr. Pankaj Chawla, founder and CEO, MSME Strategy Consultants. He's a design thinker, investor, ex Barclays, ex Airtel, ex Virgin Mobile. Pankaj is a strategic business partner and an entrepreneur. He has helped enterprises achieve operation efficacy through his innovative growth models. He's a qualified chartered accountant with 20 plus years of experience in senior management partnering, strategy formation, strategic cost management, financial planning, process transformation, and automation across geography, including Asia and Europe. Pankaj has a knack about legal and regulatory framework in our country. He is technologically advanced and is passionate about AI ML robotics. He brings on board vast experience in implementing process-based solutions across a plethora of industries ranging from telecom giants to financial services. He's a growth addicted founder who has mentored startups and helped many founders in setting their dreams into motion. So we are very privileged to have you on for today's session, and we look forward for an interesting and very interactive session today. I'm sure the founders today and the budding entrepreneurs who are part of this session, they will learn a lot from this. Can MSME become MNC? Over to you, sir.
Thank you, Vijayji, for an introduction about Amity and then introducing me. I think it is absolute pleasure to interact with startups incubated by Amity. It's been an amazing organization all through. The topic of the day, friends, today is, can MSME become an MNC? I will quickly share my screen. While screen is on your screen, now let us understand one small fact, that every MNC today was an MSME at a point in time. Like Vijay mentioned about few examples of Infosys and others, similar examples are for Amazon, Flipkarts, where a lot of companies like Flipkarts and Amazon started from a garage and all of that. So important is, how do we look at our product? How do we look at customer? How do we plan to think about adding value to the customer, maybe solving the real problems and long-term problems, and not fictitious problems, maybe short-term and all of that. So the longevity in the thought will matter for an organization to become a big organization from a small one. Important again, next aspect is, while we are looking at longevity, how are we looking at market in that sense? Are we committed to look at and design our products accordingly? I'll quickly flip the slides to talk about things for the day. We would want to today speak about product launches, the challenges which MSME face, how can MSMEs work around those challenges, and what is it that we as an organization can support you in. The endeavor will be essentially to have this session more interactive than one-sided. So I'll probably keep taking pauses in between to ask and pick up any questions that you may have. If at all you would want to ask questions at the last, we'll have approximately 15 odd minutes for question answers as well. So that's the flow of the session. Now, what is a product launch? What are imperatives for the product launch? The imperatives for the product launch are, what are your proof of concepts? Is the prototype of the product ready? And MVP. Now, before I move on to what is POC and prototype, let's understand how do we define product in the current environment of a lot of companies providing services. And the basic question which comes around is, I am a service company, how do I work on product? With services like SaaS, which is software as a service, maybe infrastructure as a service, and so on and so forth, have fairly defined for us that yes, services can also be looked as product and sold as product as well. So whatever service you may provide could be a consulting, could be a software. Since you are looking at that business as a value add for someone, you can define it as a product by offering or converting a intangible to a tangible or semi-tangible kind of an offering. That's an art that one needs to look at. But yes, all services can be looked at as a product as well. How would depend upon what service you're talking about, which industry, which market we are talking about. Now coming on to POC, POC essentially is a first step wherein you look at the proof of concept of your product. What you want to do is that product valuable, viable, that idea is valid or not valid. You bring it to that lens from a practical standpoint, essentially looking at feasibility. If I were to launch a full-fledged product, would the customers want that product or not? Would they want it in the same form and shape as I am thinking of launching it or not? What is the design? What is the technology? Probably maybe to attract investors at a few stages as well. Like there are incubators who invest at a idea stage as well, so which is essentially a POC. So could be for that as well. But important is that we look at what is the viability, what solution I am providing. Is it practical in the market or not? Will people find value in it or not? That's the kind of essence which a POC generally helps an organization like a startup or an MSME with. Once you've done the POC, the next stage which comes on is a prototype stage. Prototype is when you prepare an interactive version of your POC for to look like as a product for designing, for customers look and feel, the flow of users. Maybe, you know, it could be a sample and a model and then you release it, understanding of the project's workflow. And then see, important on any product is to bring in simplicity. We are definitely in a complex world. So if you are looking at providing any service or a product to a customer which is simple, that will be an amazing offering. So prototype, the focus in the prototype essentially should be how you could simplify the design, simplify the user interface for the user. If there are any errors, how could you work on solving that errors, reevaluate what are your strong points, would you be able to capitalize on strong points or not? Can your strong points or some of your strong points become your USPs or not? So it's an essentially a feedback taking stage where, you know, you test it. It is essentially test environment. You test the product, you see what is happening, what is not happening, what's working, what's the error, and all of that. So that is prototype, which is, you know, next step from a POC. The step after prototype is then to check after feasibility the viability of the product. What is the minimal form in which you can launch the product in the market, so that now it can test the waters of customers using it, checking it, you know, maybe facing issues, not facing issues, whether it's adding value, whether the flow from a customer standpoint is right or not. So this essentially is from a customer standpoint, that if this test, you know, stands out or it's cleared, then what is it that you could potentially do to launch it full-fledged. So example could be for someone like a urban company, which is Urban Clap. When they started the product, which was a software and app, they started with minimal number of services in Urban Clap application, which had, you know, test, which was actually an MVP for customers to test. If I was to use Urban Clap for service A, then whether my experience is smooth or not. What is the flow when I book a service, in what time I get a response, when I get a response, in how much time the customer comes to my doors to perform that service, and how the payment needs to be done, how the feedback mechanism work, and so on and so forth. So that is how MVP for Urban Clap was designed and tested in the market, which was essentially minimum cost incurred by Urban Clap, basic features for product, but yes, enough for customer to analyze, evaluate what kind of experience or what kind of service would be available in that application. And basis the user feedback, you update your product, you launch it, and then you expand. So idea is testing assumption, working product development, whether it is giving immediate value, minimizing cost or not, then setting the stage for now long-term product development. What if the MVP is fine, then how do you make it long-term successful product? How do you look at this product becoming full-fledged product, expanding to maybe not only one geography across India, maybe outside India, transnational products, like an MNC, right? Which is essential. So if at this stage your product finds value in the eyes of the customer, it means that it will find value in the eyes of the founders and the stakeholders, and leading to a better investment. Because if stakeholders and customers are finding value, investors essentially would become stakeholders and they would also find value in it. So that's how MVP is valued in the market, and hence it is done. How can you as individuals in your own zones, while you are I mean, I've been made to understand that the audience essentially could be entrepreneurs who are already in the business and people who are in nascent stages of their startup. So how could you at your desks start to look at steps to make MVP? Is something which I've called out on the screen, to say how and what tangible things you can do. So figure out the problem that you're solving, target customer for whom you're solving, decide the target market in which you want to solve the problem, benefits which your product could offer to them, analyze if there are any competitors. If yes, what are they doing? How are they doing different? And how can you add value? Then, basis the analysis, figure out what is your long-term goal. What is it that defines success for you? What is your criteria? How do you see success? For some people, success could be adding more customers is a success mantra for me. For others, customer addition could be minimal. I'm okay with that till the time my business is profitable. So profit is success mantra for me. So decide your success criteria or KPIs and work on that long-term goal basis, that success criteria. Once this desktop exercise of what you need to do, how, and all of that is done, then you look at the user flow of what information the customer will have, how would customer use the product and gain value from it, what are the necessary features that should be there in your product to ensure that the problem is rightly solved for the right people, which is your target audience, and you are ahead of competitor in the market. So look at those features, make those features your USPs potentially, and then basis customer feedback, you start to make those changes and roll out the product at a faster pace. So these are probably essential steps that one can take. Now for one to decide of these steps, what is it? Sorry. For one to decide of these steps, what are the actions that you could take and decide what to prioritize is this matrix, which can help you decide when and how. So two key parameters: what is the urgency of a particular feature or a decision, and what is the impact of that urgency. If the impact is high and urgency is high, you must include that in MVP. If the impact is high but urgency is low, you should debate it, look at it, maybe park it for next time, or take a decision whether to include or not, because urgency is less but impact is high. But if urgency is high and impact is low, then you might want to revisit at a later point in time and not want to take a decision at an MVP stage, because MVP in itself will be a cost incurring stage. So as founders, as entrepreneurs, you would want to at this stage minimize your cost. But if it is a low impact and low urgency, then you should not at all include it in your MVP. So plot your priorities, plot your next steps on this matrix to get the right result for you, to get the right direction, basis these criteria that you have already defined for yourself. If that comes out well, you would be very well prepared to action on your MVP. Now, once you've done the MVP, got the feedback from consumers and all of that, then you figure out basis the feedback, what is lacking, how you can improve it, what you can do to maybe generate new ideas, do research on behaviors of the customers. Can you launch a new version of your product and give better services? You test, you learn, you improve, maybe unlearn at times as well, and you incorporate that product to make it a full-fledged output for the customers. So that's an important thing that one should look at from an MVP perspective. Examples of MVPs, important key three, maybe easy to remember, easy to relate to. Spotify, music streaming, main feature was their music streaming, which is what they launched as an MVP. They built a desktop app, they ran a beta version, and then as the MVP and freemium price model became popular, they signed with more artists and developed the mobile app, which went overseas and captured the US market. So that's how the MVP for Spotify was built, and then the end product, and they launched, and now they are in a way market leaders for their essential services. In terms of next example, which is on iPhone, the version of iPhone, the basic version, it didn't have features like Bluetooth, MMS, copy paste, search, and other options. But what they built was the core product, which was their essential service of what they wanted to do and deliver. And once the product was launched, the experience was great. They started to add features like Bluetooth, MMS, copy paste, search options, and all of that. So another example of MVP. Next is Uber. Uber, when it just started with connecting drivers to iPhone users in San Francisco, which helped them test the market, test the product, gain attention of people. And once it got the traction that they wanted, they tried to make it as economic taxi service as possible, and then which led to a successful MVP, and then the final product launch that they did. Okay, before we move on to challenges in the MSME space, let us pause for a minute or so to have questions if there are any. IT team, can you help with that if there are any questions?
Participant can raise hands in case they wanted to ask any queries. So I think we can continue probably towards the later part of it.
Okay, fine. So the next part of the session essentially is what are the challenges which generally MSMEs or startup face. There are 6 key challenges which have been figured out basis research which MSMEs generally face. The first one is the inadequate management team. What happens generally is as an entrepreneur, because you're so passionate about your business, you want to do everything by your own self. You want to ensure that the product is the best product because you know the concept. There is no one else who could replicate the way you think, who would replicate the way you would execute, which is in a way a right thing to do, which is what is important, and passion drives success. But at the same point in time, as an entrepreneur, you cannot be expert in everything. So you have to have a management team, maybe co-founders or may not be co-founders, but then senior people helping you out in various aspects of your business, because they are experts in those domains for the business or for any industry for that matter, if that domain is a generic domain such as finance or HR. So you would need to have management team. The statistics which talk about startups failing in X number of years of their launch and all of that, if you drill down and dig deeper into that, you would realize that the reasons for them potentially is one of the reasons is inadequate management team. So you should focus on that. Once you've had inadequate management team, still the startups or MSMEs fail. The reason is you've got people on board, but you're not willing to delegate them work. You'd still want to have control and execution both in your hands, which is not possible, right? Which would then lead to a mismanagement of few aspects, which could be finance, hiring, marketing. Because if an entrepreneur is a product guy, then he can look at only product better. There could be people in finance looking at finance better. There could be people in sales looking at sales better. Similarly, in marketing, people looking at marketing better. So if you would not delegate, then the potential of mismanagement and business failure are high, because you've started to incur cost of the management team, but you're not delegating as well. The next aspect, while having management team also, but yet failing, is the business model faulty. If the business model is not robust enough to give you right profits and right revenues and margin percentages, then also you would fail, because at the end of the day, any entrepreneur who's running a business can run business basis money that he or she or the enterprise earns. Now it is separate that how would you want to invest that money. If you're opening a non-profit organization and you do not want to take money home and still spend it on the business, is separate. But for your business, which is an NGO as well, or a profit making organization as well, for that to run successful, survive and thrive in the market, there has to be right business model. There have to be channels of revenues which should keep on coming absolutely right, and the costs associated with them, along with, which is a learning from COVID, the cash flow of it. How would you make a high revenue generating business a high cash making machine also, so that you can either earn money out of it, do more ventures, or invest the same money in the invest the extra money in the same business. Next is, if you have got everything right, but with the changing environment, you essentially are not willing to pivot. You are not agile enough to really add value to your business, look at your business differently, look at your business globally or maybe widely, then those will be problems, right? So you look at it that way. Once you've addressed this, I think fair amount of challenge you've already addressed. Now, when this is addressed, next is, if you are taking actions basis the business model that you have, basis the strategy that you've already made, but those actions are inconsistent, which means you either are not prepared for the business or you are not committed for long term to the business, which means it will take more time for you to course correct, make errors, falter, and then succeed. Important is you should be sure of what your long term goals are, and be mentally prepared that it will take time to grow and build your business. You will have to do maybe a few monotonous things, maybe a few challenges, maybe challenging conversations for that matter, uh, to stay relevant in what you are doing and building before it gets you the revenues. You have to take actions every day to make sure that you are visible, you've got credibility which is being built in the market, are important aspects where MSMEs face challenge and at times falter. Next important aspect is KPIs, which is key performance indicators. You have to define the right key performance indicators for your business, which are relevant in the business and the industry as well. Once you define that, important is that you monitor the progress as well, which is data driven, which is inputs driven. You monitor the progress on a regular basis, because if you would not do that, then your KPIs would not be governed properly and appropriately, which means there potentially could be times where your business is not doing right at the core of it, but you would not know it. For example, you have priced your product too low for too long, which essentially means as a short-term strategy, you would have thought of, let's say, selling it only to cover variable cost for next 6 months. But because you've not measured that KPI regularly for 6 months, it has been long. As an example, let's say 12 to 18 months. So you realize that for 18 months, you have sold it at low price, whereas you planned only for 6 months. It's an important thing to look at, because you run out of cash, because your pricing would not be sufficient to cover your cost, which could be cost of production, cost of marketing, delivery, and other costs. Or you may not have data points, which may be a disastrous disconnect, because if you don't have data points, then you are essentially blind in the current world of technology, right, which is all driven by data. Or if you are a inventory heavy company or a capital intensive organization, then the inventory and supply chain mismanagement also is an important KPI to look at and monitor it regularly, to be honest. Next important aspect where the MSMEs are generally not that pro on, or maybe take it for granted, is the business planning. If you would have not planned for your business month by month, maybe week by week, if that is something which an important aspect, or quarterly or whatever, then you are up for failure, because you've not planned it in any manner, so you'd not be able to monitor it. So before you start to open doors of any organization that you want to start, whatever be the level, as small as a one person organization, as small as incurring only $1,000 on your business, if you're not planned it well, you are probably up for failure if you do not course correct. So a business plan, a comprehensive one, is a minimum requirement, and it generally covers following aspects, which could vary basis business, which is uh, what is the business all about? How do you want to achieve it? What are your current and future employee and management needs? What is the SWOT in the broader market? SWOT is strengths, weakness, opportunities, and threats. Now, doing one-time SWOT will not help. You have to regularly do a SWOT, because market is changing every day. Your strengths, your weaknesses, opportunities that you have, and threats in the market would change in time to come, right? So you would have to do a regular SWOT in the broader market concept, and that should feed into your business plan and financial plan. You would need to define what are your capital needs, what is the amount of money that you need for at least next 12 to 18 months. Basis the capital needs, what are your cash flows, how much money would come in, how much money would go out on various expenses that you would want to do, basis the budget that you've set for them. What are the marketing initiatives that you would want to take for your business in time to come? That's another important thing. What is competition doing? What are their strategies? What are the expansion plans and all of that? If you would research on that, that would give you a better perspective of your business and the ecosystem that you operate in, so that you can plan it well. And if you do not really adapt to that, trust me, there will be innumerable problems to make your business succeed. The idea here is, you do it well, you do it regularly, do the during the and define the course of the lifetime of your organization, and how could you elongate the lifetime as much as possible through effective business planning. Unsuccessful marketing strategy, yes, is one of the next points, which is in the current market scenario important for entrepreneurs to understand, to define it well, to really work it well for their businesses. Lack of funding. Now, lack of funding is an important thing to look at, and there is a reason that it has come at sixth and not first, whereas entrepreneurs would want it at first, because funding is important, right? This is the fuel to the organization. The reason it is at last is that while the lack of funds is important more than that is, are you ready to get funds from the market? Are you ready to get funds from your friends, family, relatives, which would be decided by the robustness of your business plan, what's the commitment that you have made to the business, how long termish you are thinking, what is the revenue model, what is the pricing, where you want to launch, and all those specifics and other things of maybe launching, what to launch, when to launch, marketing strategy, so on and so forth, would make you ready for funding. And this funding, it could be a debt funding, could be an equity funding, angel investor funding, VC funding, any funding, but you have to be ready for that funding. If you're ready for that funding and still you're not having that, then the lack of funding is a really important aspect to look at. Okay. Now, how is it that we solve the challenges or issues that the MSMEs generally face? So, basis the challenges that we saw, we had categorized the challenges in 5 aspects, 5 areas, where pre-COVID it was high, still it is there, but then relatively less, is that MSMEs are focused on valuation than adding value. So if you solve for that, then you are fairly ready to get funding. How do we solve for that? Value for any organization is two-way. How is it that you are adding value to your customers, and how is it that you are adding value for the shareholders, which could be any shareholder or stakeholder. Value for customers is defined by the product that you have, the problem that you are solving, solution that you are providing, and the revenue you're generating out of that. But value for you as an entrepreneur, value for stakeholders is driven by the stronger balance sheet that you have. Are you looking at a long-term stability? Your capital structure is optimal or not? You have actually MIS, and to take effective and right decisions for the organization is very, very important for you to be value focused, you to be looking at how your balance sheet is growing and making you stronger. Are there enough checks and balances in place to decide and decipher that there are risks and opportunities? And do you have strategy to look at mitigating those risks and capitalizing on all the opportunities that you have out there? Are important aspects for you to be value focused than valuation focused. I'll skip second. I'll first come to third, and then I'll probably later on come to the second one. Third is, while we understand that MSMEs are MSMEs because they do not have access to MNC talent, because at the stages of MSMEs, they may not have enough fund to afford an MNC talent, or they may not have enough procedures and other bits to really think like an MNC, which is where we have an offering where we say that we can get you experts from MNCs in the domain that you want at a fraction of cost, and you can capitalize on the advices, opinions of those experts. The basic problem that MSMEs face here is that primarily they do not define the problem statement right. If you would not define the problem statement right, you would not be able to get the right answers. So those specialists who have got experiences in MNCs can define the right problem statement, can give you the right advice, can give you mentoring support on a regular basis if you need. The next is hand holding. So a lot of small companies have failed because they did not have anyone to hold their hand through tough patches of life and the business dynamics. And because of that vacuum of not having an expert by their side led them to take wrong decisions, under pressure decisions, panicking at the right at the wrong place, maybe at the right time, but then no one to really handle them, which is where, you know, hand holding support in every aspect of business, both in terms of strategy and execution, is important. Could be a CFO support, could be as small as negotiating with vendors and customers, right? Because MSMEs become MSMEs may not be able to crack a great deal just because the size is low, the volume that they can offer to a vendor is low, hence vendor is not able to give that price that they would want to work to make business profitable. So could be that level of hand holding support, could be defining a budgetary control process, could be compliance management, could be optimization of processes, could be cost management strategies, and so on and so forth. So those are the real handhold support where MSMEs have found value in capitalizing on them and then growing and making money. Next is, while MNCs are there in the market, talent is a problem, but at the same point in time, competition from MNCs is also a problem, which is more driven by the resources that they have, which means they can afford to take more losses. They can afford with their deep pockets to compete better. They can afford better IT technology solutions and all of that, which they can invest in. At an MSME level, you may not have that enough capital to invest in those expensive technologies. But the solution that we can look at providing is making you future ready with latest technologies. We have got solutions which are very, very cost economical with in-house and out-house technology experts, maybe implementing AI ML solutions, maybe doing desktop automations, maybe, you know, training the staff in skill development and other programs for the life cycle of the organization, is something that definitely gives MSMEs an edge over the other MSMEs, which helps them compete MNCs better. So that's an important thing for any organization to look at. Now coming to the finance and cash flow management. This is a very, very essential part of any organization of any size and scale. Imperative for MSMEs altogether, because they are definitely short of funds. They want to optimize their spend in the manner that they get the best buck out of it, which is a transactional thing, but then that's a strategic thing as well, of how you figure out what is right, what is the priority today, what is the right price for a particular thing that you should spend. So which is where the service of cash flow management comes into picture. If you have got someone to help you draft your cash flow, cash expense projection, what is it that you have been doing in the past, to tell you where you spent money and where you would have actually spent money, would trigger you to take the right decisions, spend the money right, wisely, and then gain more money out of the money that you have, churn it better, and make a better use of the working capital that you have. So this cash flow management is really important. I, in the previous slide, talked about financing, and there I talked about financing to be adequate, and the organization, the MSME, should be ready for that financing. So all the necessary steps which are important for an organization to take to be ready for financing and adequate financing is important to define. Basis few things: what is your business model, what is your revenue model, what is your expansion plan, what is the strategy for expansion, and how, due to all of this, what is your cash burn rate, what is your cash conversion cycle, how can we reduce the cash burn rate yet increase the cash burn cycle, and all the cash conversion cycle, and all of that will make you ready for financing, be it self-sustaining, which is generating funds out of the funds that you have, or attracting investors. That is an important aspect for people to understand and work better on. So these are the points where the challenges are being faced by MSMEs. We generally provide these kind of services to MSMEs, maybe helping them with consulting on a particular decision. For example, someone's taking a decision whether should I buy this asset or take on a lease. We are there to help guide on that decision itself, whether to make that decision or not, what is right, what is not right. Handholding services we spoke about, finance readiness we spoke about, technology solution, maybe desktop automation to AI, ML, robotics, we can help you with that. We can help you with industry specialist consulting, mentoring, time, etc. So these are these things where we can help you with. Largely this is it from me on the presentation and inputs that I had to give to you. We can open for Q&A, Mr. Vijay.
Yes, Pankaj. I think we already have few questions in the Q&A section. Sahil, will you like to take a lead on this?
Yes, sir. Sir, we have a question from Anubhav Sharma. Sir, there are two approaches. One, grow your company profitably.
Sahil, your voice is cracking a bit.
Am I audible now?
Yeah.
So this is from Anubhav Sharma. Sir, there are two approaches. One is grow your company profitably and slowly. The second is take adequate funding and scale quickly. Which one is better?
You have to decide your goal to answer this question. If your goal is to just scale and not make profits now, but wait for long term to gain profits, then the approach of scalability works better. But if you are building an organization which has to add more value and for more longer term, then the second one, which is to look at profits, scale slow, but make sure that you are getting some buck out of the business at the end of the day, and then grow gradually, would be better. Example, latest we looked at Zomato IPO, a loss-making company, but focused on volumes, focused on gaining customers, may be absolutely loss-making, but yes, that is their strategy, and they've gone into IPO stage as well. Other organizations who are profitable yet growing slowly, but adding value to the stakeholders is important. So how you want to strategize your business will help. Second, once you've strategized your business, what are the expectations of the stakeholders are important. So one thing is very clear: for whatever thing that you do, customer has to gain value. If the customer is not gaining value, the product is not viable at all. So customer side is fairly sorted in both the models, your strategy and then stakeholders. If the stakeholder is your own self, it is bootstrapped organization, you are funding yourself. If your idea is to generate funds out of the funds that you have invested and make some profit, then the second approach. But if your idea is to burn some more cash, gain valuation over next 3 to 5 years, and maybe sell off or go to an IPO stage basis that, then that is the approach that one can take. If investors, then again, what is the plan for the investors? So no right answer. Everything depends on how you want to run the organization. What is your objective of running the organization? Both have their own pros and cons.
We have Asif. Asif, please ask your question.
Asif, unmute yourself.
Yeah, hi Pankaj sir, how are you? I mean, it is really amazing session that we are having it. And I'm from Gate. We have a SaaS-based product, and we are already expanding in African and Middle East market. So we are facing the challenges like, for example, like if I would like to do the trademark registration and the patent registration. So in this regard, I would like to talk to you.
Okay. Hi, Asif. International expansion is absolutely important. The markets that you've spoken about are really growing markets. So business should be doing great there side of the house. In terms of registration of trademark and patents, I think that's a specific question. We can definitely help you out with that, be it India trademark or international trademark, depending upon what is your requirement. But then you and I can pick it up the specifics offline.
Talking about the
Sorry?
Indian trademark, we have already registered. I'm talking about the international trademark.
Yes, we can work that out for you, Asif, separately.
Okay, all right, okay. And I have got your number, and maybe I require some more help, so I'll get in touch with you. Thank you.
Definitely, not a problem. Thank you, Asif.
We have Anirudh next. Anirudh, please unmute and ask your question.
Good afternoon, sir. It's a great honor to be like amongst you. My question is like, how significant is like laying a framework in like distinct phases, such as like statistically getting out the specific problem that one's solving, like determining key user types would help us to like test the basic business hypothesis. Like as we have generally observed that with great companies, the initial MVP doesn't resemble their today's agile methodology to their value propositions now.
So what is the question here? What are you asking, that how important is this to jot down what you want to do?
How significant these things are different. Like we can see that great companies have like their initial MVPs different from what what their value propositions are now. We can see a significant difference from that.
Yes. So it will always be right. So what you intend to do today will not always remain same tomorrow. But what you intend to do today is important so that you can focus on that and deliver your product accordingly, be it POC, prototype, or MVP. Because your today's offering is this much only, which is limited. Like for example, when Amazon started with only an online bookstore, which was their MVP at a point in time. But now their MVP is entirely different. It is a full-fledged e-commerce platform, right? So, but at that point in time, planning to really work on the online bookstore as a website or an app was important to test whether it is working right or not. It was important to plan what volumes you would want to sell, what would be the margin, what would be the profitability after whatever expenses and all of that, and how would you scale that. So that plan is always important to have in place. The important thing on top of that is how you make sure that the plan is relevant. In what frequency you review that plan, considering not only what you are doing, considering what is happening in the market, what are the natural expansion probability, scope, and strategy that you want to look at, what are the markets that you want to expand in, could be horizontal or could be vertical. But then that's important always, because no big organization has become big without giving its the planning and strategy its due importance, because otherwise you would shoot in dark.
Okay, thank you, sir. Sir, I would like to associate with one more question to this. Like, it's like, do a bud stage.
Anirudh can't hear you.
Anirudh, you'll have, we can't hear you.
Sir, am I audible now?
Yes, yes.
Yeah, yes, you're audible.
Sir, I would like to associate one more question to this. Like, do a bud stage startup need to invest huge amount on customer acquisitions?
So customer acquisition is an expensive exercise, right? Always.
Yes, sir.
And in the competitive market as India, it will always be. How you make it cost effective within your budgets is something that could be worked out on a case to case basis. For example, if you are into retail, and this is one of the examples, I was having a conversation, one of the startups, they were into selling pencils. Their competition was huge in terms of all the big brands, but the key driver was the retailers, not the competition. So if you address the key driver right, which is the retailers who are selling the pencils to the students on the ground, then your competition is fairly taken care of and the cost of acquisition comes down. But if you want to target only competitors and not the retailers, then your cost of acquisition will be huge. So cost of acquisition, having said the facts of the case, is a hefty exercise, but how do you smartly maneuver around it to ensure that with the minimum spend you get what you want, or you get fairly there what you want, is a real value add.
Thank you so much, sir.
We have a question from Mayank. So the question is too basic and too early of the stage. I have a real set of customers in mind that best suits my product, but how do I reach those customers initially starting zero?
So the understanding that I'd like to have from Mayank is the POC ready or a prototype ready? Can you unmute Mayank?
I'll just do that. Mayank, please unmute yourself. Mayank, could you please raise your hand once?
We cannot see him.
Okay, so we move on.
So I think that is the last question. We don't have any more questions from
So we'll check. Guys, anyone have any questions? Please raise your hands.
So we have Dr. Ajay Kumar Pandey. Sir, please unmute yourself.
Yes, sir. Dr. J, we're not able to hear you.
So could you try muting and unmuting yourself once?
No, we still cannot hear him.
Dr. Ajay, if you can put your query on a chat box, that will help by the time you're fixing the mute unmute problem.
Meanwhile, any other founders, basically, if they have any questions, please raise.
Let me see.
Yeah, I think Dr.
Am I
Ajay.
audible, sir?
Yeah,
Am I
very
audible,
much
sir?
audible. Yes, yes.
Okay, okay. Sir, first of all, thanks very much for your such an illuminating presentation, which clearly shows the roadmap from MSME becoming MNCs. And
Thank you, Dr. Ajay.
what I came to know came out of this, that certainly it is fundamentally the mindset. Once if you are starting with scratching out from MSME and you are aiming to becoming a MNC, then the mindset is very crucial. If this mindset involves everything, you're planning to emphasize much, and this planning should be very continuous, should be feedback oriented, should be restructured every time, every week, every fortnight, and then this whole journey goes on. You keep on say acquiring talented and just keep on building up as this as an MNC. So would you like to say something on that? That this mindset framework. So how this can this can be first of all be in the first place. What sort of this mindset? Because initially we all have all the problems. So what should be the basic starting point of the mindset?
Okay, so thank you, Dr. Ajay, for this question. Mindset in my understanding is driven by your conviction to start a particular venture. Important, and we all get digressed from the from the objective, because we have got distractions day in day out for other aspects and other areas of life. Important every time is to remember and recollect why you started a particular venture. What is it that you want to achieve out of that? What and how do you define your goal? And that goal could be a 6 monthly goal, could be an yearly goal. If you define that and revisit that on a regular basis and make it realistic, the mindset would always be in focus. That's basis experience I'm sharing with you. So if you are focused enough on what you want to achieve, you would always be in the mindset to work more and more for your venture. Commitment along with mindset is important of how you make yourself committed for long term with your venture.
Yes. Thank you, sir. So you have clearly stated that firstly defining the objective and then sticking to the objective is the prime starting point where to build on this mindset. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
So I'll unmute Mayank. Dr. Ajay,
We have Asif again with a question.
Mayank has raised hand.
Yes, sir. We'll allow Mayank next. Asif, please ask your question.
Yeah, hi, Pankaj sir. So
Yeah.
I have a query regarding it. We are expanding through our franchisee network. So in this
Asif, your
regard,
voice is really low. You're expanding through franchisee?
yeah. I mean, I have already finalized franchisee in Nigeria and Ethiopia, and we are in talk in South Africa and Kenya. So we really want to channelize our mechanism so that it will work slowly. No need to do any mistake. So that kind of support, that kind of mentorship I required so that we'll move smoothly.
Okay, we can provide that. That's fine.
Yes,
I hope you got number with you, so we can touch base and we can provide that support. That's not a problem.
Thank you.
Yeah.
We have Mayank next.
Hello, sir. Am I audible?
Yes, Mayank.
Very good afternoon, sir. Sir,
Yeah.
actually, I have a question regarding my venture. So basically, this is my second venture that I'm planning right now. So I was in a dilemma that initially, even when I had the first venture, we had to stop it because of, I mean, it is on a pause right now. So we had to make it a pause because we were not aware of the exact customer base, right? So now that we have the prior experience and we exactly know what the customer base is, uh, it's pretty unaware for us. We are pretty unaware about the fact that how to reach the initial customer base. I'm not talking about the beta users or probably the people who will be testing out and giving us the feedbacks, but how to even reach to that basic customer base, because we have to gain a lot of experience right now, and we definitely want the mentorship from people like you and everybody around here. But but since again the fact is we are not even aware of the actual strategy or actual point of specific view that how to even proceed to the basic and the actual customer base initially. So that was my
So,
question.
so couple of things before answer. Is your POC ready?
Sir,
Proof
I
of
have
concept of a service?
yeah, exactly, sir. So I have that as well, and I have a proper MVP ready as well, the
You've got
minimum viable
MVP.
product. Yeah.
Okay.
So for both the products that I'm talking, but I'm focusing on the latest venture right now. It's not like since I said that I paused the earlier venture, so it's out of bound right now. But actually, I'm focusing on the latest venture. So, and for that, I literally, I feel, we feel as my other founder as well, we feel that it is pretty ready and pretty on point to take it into the market. So that's how it is right now.
Okay. And if you have an MVP, do you have your target customer persona made in your mind or on a piece of paper of what kind of customers you want to target?
Absolutely, sir. Absolutely, sir. We have made proper presentation. I mean, we are approaching very formally towards the situation right now, because since we have gained a little experience and we have meetings like with Vijay sir as well, and we did a lot of things. I mean, we are into researching and more of researching right now. So we are into a formal phase right now. Yes, sir. So I can say that we have it on piece of paper and ready, absolutely, in mind as well.
Okay. And would you want to share some brief about your business so that I can then suggest you how to reach the right customer base?
Absolutely, sir. So basically, sir, right now we are focusing on a product that basically helps us connect and make a proper community of either professionals or people who are working, right? So for example, it is pretty difficult, and I researched and I got a number that's probably 25% or 23% around, so that says that most of these number of startups fail due to the fact that they are not able to get adequate number of human resources or adequate resources to fulfill the requirements, right? So we are building a product that will help us connect and help those people connect, the people who are willing to put up their requirements and the people who want to fulfill the requirement. We are making a network of these kind of people. So that is so basically the product is focused on the communication between the people who are lacking things and communication with the people who can fulfill the gap between what they're lacking, for that, so that we can make a proper startup environment. For example, I am right now facing a problem that I don't have a right team. So I for that specific problem, we thought of making a actual platform where people will have a startup environment or environment where they can ask for help instantly and get help from each other and communicate and grow together initially in the initial basis of their product. So that's how we are basically approaching with the products right now.
Okay, so your product is a networking platform or your product is a human resource offering?
So it's a networking platform where we allow people to communicate and acquire human resources. I mean, it's not like we are posting any kind of jobs from our end, or we are posting any kind of human resources from our end. It's like just a platform where people can register as themselves as a user, and the other one, or the people can put up their projects or their work, and they can either track it, either showcase it to other people, and put up the requirements that they have. For example, right now I want a chief marketing officer, right? So I can just put up an offer that I want a chief marketing officer, because it's not it it's not a very formalized way of asking for help. It's just that somebody wants to do something of their own, and somebody is struggling to start something of their own. So we want these people to connect and make an environment to proceed. So that's how it is.
Okay, so in that case, if you are looking at how do you find first set of customers to test your MVP and give
Yes,
you
sir.
feedback, then you should look at two aspects and very low hanging fruits to really reap on. One is do some bit of marketing, could be an email marketing to get the right contact numbers and people to contact. And second is maybe do some sessions with startups, maybe webinars for startups to really help them understand your offering. So currently, when you are explaining me the offering, there are two aspects of offering that you already explained. And if you will have a conversation, then obviously there'll be maybe 2-3 more.
Yes.
But if you've got two set of offerings, then refine your deck or your pitch or whatever to share that you've got two offerings or 5 offerings, not one, and build strategy around growing each one of them separately in a focused manner. So what looks like is you are trying to grow the venture, but
Yes, sir,
not
absolutely.
the specific aspects within the venture. So if your venture has got 4 aspects, then you need to have someone focusing on each one of them separately, because each one of them would have a different strategy, both to market and to acquire customers.
Yes, absolutely.
And based on that, we will have a different strategy on pricing, revenue, costing, and then eventually profitability.
And sorry to disturb you, sir. One more thing, sir. Sir, as I had conversations with many people as well, and as I was listening to your webinar as well, that you were giving an example of Uber and the MVP that they offer limited services initially.
Yes.
But what I think for now is that if I'll, for example, limit or focus on one particular service, or let's say one particular aspect, this might downgrade my product in a sense, not in a sense that the service is inadequate, but my product as a whole, that if you connect the points, that the aspects that I'll be telling or I'll be sharing with the people, then it will be more visibly viable to somebody to even think about it, rather giving a single aspect and just focus on the. I'm definitely agreeing to the point that you should focus on different aspects individually, and that's what I want to say again. But as I said, people initially say that you should actually go with the same approach that everybody says, that give the minimum product to somebody and make it the best of it. But I think in this case, or in many cases, it's like the product is pretty wide, and if you connect the points, it's more appropriate rather giving a single point out initially just because you don't have enough resources. So yeah.
No, so that statement has to be understood contextually, Mayank. While I understand that you should start with a minimum viable product, that does not mean only one product. That could mean a set of them. So if you have got 5 offerings and 3 of them makes it minimal, then 3. If 4 of them makes minimal, then 4. Important is how do you look at this matrix? Let me put it on screen again. Of what is the urgency and what is the impact? Right? If you can see your screen, if 4 or 5 of your products fit in the extreme top right quadrant, then you should include that in MVP.
Absolutely. Okay, sir.
And if it is only 1, then do 1. If it is all 5, do 5. So minimum doesn't mean 1. Minimum means minimum for your product, minimum for your offering.
Thank you for the assurance, sir, because I was pretty confused about the fact that it's like everybody talks about the same situation where you should put up a minimum product, because I mean, it's like if you look up to somebody, you have to listen to them rather give out your opinion initially, because you are at the initial stage. So
no, I
understand. Thank you for the
I understand that. That's not a problem. Minimum does not mean 1. Minimum could be 5, minimum could be 10, but that is minimum for you to launch. Below that number, your product isn't valuable for a customer. That's minimum for you.
Yeah. Thank you so much for your time, sir.
Okay, no problem. Thank you, Mayank.
Is there any other questions? Mr. Anil, you want to speak? You can raise your hand. have a comment to share, please. Sahil, please unmute, Mr. Anil.
Okay. Yeah, am I audible now?
Yeah, very much.
Okay.
Yes.
Firstly, let me compliment Amity Incubator and Mr. Chawla for a very, very brilliant exposition. I mean, it's indeed an eye-opener as to the way he's gone about the subject and made it so interesting. I, in my capacity in the army, my name is Lieutenant General Anil Kapoor. I just superannuated in December, and I'm just doing some advisory work here. And during my service, I've been, working on Startup Army. We started a couple of startups within the army with a number of projects. And in my experience of over 4 years in doing this job from 2016 onwards, where we launched the first startup army in innovation in IT, and then carried on into engineering and technology, what I've observed is a good practice is actually to prepare what I call an enterprise strategy document. So what we did, we prepared for each an enterprise strategy with the end state in mind, and kept revisiting it to raise the bar. So while what Mr. Pankaj Chawla said is absolutely bang on and brilliant, I thought it'll be a good idea to first put your heads together to do your SWOT analysis as to where does your strength lie, which need to be maintained, where does weakness lie within and threat lie outside based on the environment, to work out an opportunity matrix to create, because you all are trend setters, startup is a trend setter, to create such trends which are very, very visible marks. And I think the journey to, which is a very brilliant subject again, journey to MNC of tomorrow is all about an enterprise strategy. I had the privilege of actually meeting some time back Sheryl Sandberg when I attended a capsule on learning to think strategically. And this document that I'm speaking is a fallout from the discussions there, that even in Facebook, when they started very, very humble beginning, they started with a very small 2-pager enterprise strategy document. And then it became a voluminous baseline document with their experience. And it is a living story even now. So I thought, since we've got a large number of startups and I found very interesting questions, I thought I must add this value, whatever worth it is. But thank you. It's been a pleasure listening, and thanks a lot for this opportunity. God bless you all.
Thank you, Anil, sir. I think time for wind up. So, Pankaj sir, I think it was a great session altogether. A lot of insight for the startup founders. In fact, you led some of the very great points for any of the founders to think on the lines of starting as early as on the pilot side of it, initially doing a prototype development, coming into the MVP side of it, and how to gain initial traction as well as taking your product to the global market. So it was a good process that you have shared altogether, and I'm sure all the startup founders who were present here would have gained that kind of knowledge through this session. We'll look forward for more, and in case any of the founder reach out to us for connecting with you, we'll do that. And I, on the behalf of Amity Innovation Incubator Gurugram, really thank you so much for this session, and look forward for more down the line. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Vijay. It was pleasure speaking to a lot of people today, addressing their queries.
Thank you, sir. Thank you all the participants who were part of this session, and look forward to seeing you in further events also. Thank you. Have a great day. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Be
Bye.
safe. Thank you.